It has been a bit, but welcome back to Total Villain Multiverse, y'all. So, over Christmas break, I said that I would try as hard as I could to get one out every single Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but it wasn't promised. And that was definitely true, as we only got 2 episodes out over the break. I mean, technically, this is part of the break, but it's January 2nd. It basically isn't. So I guess we're back now, and I have a lot of plans now. Also, the other thing is I promise I'm still working on the season 3 intro. I don't know when it will be out, but whenever it is, it'll still be at the beginning of one of these episodes. If you were wondering, season 1 and also season 2s are already on the channel if you scroll back a little bit. And then one last thing before we start up our Boney Island section is I'm still recovering from a bit of a cold. So if I have like a full-blown coughing fit, I'll cut it out of the video. But there might be like a little cough here and there. But let's go ahead and get to our Boney Island section. So last time we had Afton, Toga, and Sin arrive here. And this time around, do I think any of these people are going to be gaining their advantage? Well, I think we have very powerful candidates here. But I think that... Ooh, do I even want to give the advantage to anyone? I think everyone here is so psychotic that I don't think they pay enough attention to try to find it. You could make a case for Sin, but I don't think so. So I think what I'm gonna go ahead and say. Oh yeah, by the way, I've kind of humanized Toga a little bit too much. While I was rewatching some of the episodes really quickly to kind of get me in the headspace for Multiverse again, I want to reiterate that Toga is still one of the most mentally unstable people that has ever been on the show. Actually, easily the most, over like Sin and all that. So she's not okay, and she still definitely would not pass up the opportunity to kill some people. But I think, yeah, they'd all get too busy with each other to find it. So whenever 6 comes on the boat of losers, the boat of looters, in the morning, they are picked up with nobody. Plus, they probably have to get the reboot card for one of them, or picked up with no advantage. So, Sen goes back to Fiore's favorites, Toga goes back to Vader's Vanguard, and Afton goes back to the newly named Sloane's staff. Y'all, if y'all do remember in the last Multiverse episode, Clipchamp decided to kill itself, and because of that, I was not able to add any post-credit scenes, which is why the post-credit scenes for that episode and this episode will be in this episode. But also, I wasn't able to add like the last bit of audio, so like the outro and who went to Boney Island, and then the new team name. So yeah, there it is. If y'all forgot, Sloane's staff definitely fits her character, which we will be learning a little bit more about today. Then I don't know why that's like that. Okay, and then one thing that, as we move into our pre-challenge section, one thing that y'all might have noticed by now, if you're looking at the screen, is somebody's icon has changed, and that is Sasha. Without Wanda's control, she's been, her spell has kind of worn off at this point, and Sasha is just doing a lot better. She has 2 friends who understand her and are helping her with Sonar and Rouge. And she is really trying to better herself like she was originally going to do when she came on the season. So yeah, she's just a lot happier, a lot less depressed. But she still has like her traumas and stuff, what she's still going to have to deal with. They don't just go away like that, right? You can't just press a button and make all your problems go away now. But what else is going on in our pre-challenge section? Well, I actually think Fiore is keen-eyed to realize, holy crap, that's an unbreakable 3 right there. And Fiore has Venom, who isn't nearly as loyal to her as the other 3 are to each other. And then there's Sin on the team. So Fiore is going to try to rope in Sin, as well as getting Venom more on her side. But as for the other teams, Sloane's staff is falling behind. However, I don't think they're too worried about it, considering they have quite a few powerhouses. I'm going to go ahead and leave them like that. Yeah, I think that fits better. And Azula, Afton, Sloane, and even Bowser and Heather gameplay-wise. So, plus if they lose, it's just 2 easy vote-offs, as far as they're aware. So, Then on Vader's Vanguard, things aren't looking too great for the girls on that team with Daisy and Toga. I mean, things are looking fine for Magica, but Daisy and Toga are trying to work Death into flipping on the 3, but they don't know if it's going to work or not. But let's see if any of that develops in our challenge section. So our challenge section actually really fits the kind of New Year's theme of this episode, which isn't going to be nearly as strong as like the Halloween episode. But if y'all did check, the name of the episode is New Year, Same Assholes, because it is a new year in universe. Also, this episode might be a little longer due to all those post-credit scenes I have lined up, so stick around for that. But the challenge kind of like works with it a little bit. It is Challenge 56, Sales Demon, suggested by Raymond the Fire God. So the reason this kind of works is just because of the name on the episode, but whatever, it doesn't matter too much. I do want to say before we go into the actual challenge is if you want to be featured in a video, I would love it if you just went down to the comment section and commented below a challenge suggestion, and I will most likely do your challenge unless it's too similar to something that's already happened in the multiverse or Total Drummer Center Camp, or if it's just not going to work lore-wise. So outside of that, I will probably do it. Also, I prefer it if you give it a name and an advantage, but if you don't, that's fine. I can make it up. But let's actually get into the rules here. So, Lauren will send each team to a different universe. These universes were chosen to be difficult for the teams. Each team will have to come up with a product to sell. After that, each team will have to sell their products to the inhabitants of the universe they are in. Whichever team ends up making the least money will be up for elimination. Now, nobody found the advantage, but if found, each member of that team would earn a bonus of $100 to put them in the lead early. So that means like if Sloan's staff found it, they would have $500 to start. But if Vader's Vanguard found it, they would have had $600 to start because they have one more team member. But obviously no one found that. And guys, to be honest, I made no one find that so that this could be as simple as possible, because this is about to be, obviously it's a game show episode, but one of the most lore-heavy episodes in the season, because each universe that they go to matters quite a bit for a few different reasons. But obviously we'll get to that throughout the challenge and throughout the mini credit scenes I have planned. But I think we should start by saying where they're sent to, because they're sent to, and then once they're sent there, they have to figure out, okay, what can we make, and on top of that, what are they going to want to buy, right? So they could be like, oh, we want to make a freaking golden toilet, but they don't have gold. I don't know why that's what came into my mind. I don't know. But they don't have gold on them, so they wouldn't be able to. So that has to be something they can realistically make. They're allowed to explore that world, though, but they only have a certain amount of time, right? So like a day or so to get the challenge done. And if you don't get yours sold by that time, then you're automatically up for elimination because you made $0. Now, when it comes to Sloan's staff, they're going to be sent to the FNAF reality. One quick thing I do want to say is, when I say the FNAF reality, that is not what it's called in universe. It is not called the Five Nights at Freddy's reality. It's called, like, I don't know, reality 479 or reality 582 or something. But I'm not going to be getting that specific until the final season of the show, where that'll really matter. But for them, they're sent to the FNAF reality, and I think I'll just say where everyone's sent. So for Vader's Vanguard, they're sent to the MHA reality, which will be hard for them to sell to its inhabitants because they have Toga there. By the way, its inhabitants doesn't mean they're just put to a random part. No, they're strategically teleported to like UA High. The same way in Sloan's staff, they're strategically teleported to Fazbear's Pizzeria, which Afton's there, so you can imagine that wouldn't be very good. As for Fiore's favorites, they are sent to the Murder Drones reality, which actually is a really big problem because not only is Sin there, which is the person who kind of cooked this entire universe. But also, the entire MFA is there, which not only includes In and Uzi, but also means like Sasha will have to confront Ann and Marcy, which they're good, albeit a little awkward. They were kind of mainly bonding because of the euphoria of winning that big thing, that big battle at the end of season 2. Plus, you have people that are pretty aggressive, like Fiore and Venom, but it's gonna be pretty hard for them. Now, one last final thing that I need to talk about before we get into more specifics is these people cannot be trusted going out into other universes unmonitored. And since Lauren obviously can't be in 3 places at once, she has sent out 3 people that she knows she can trust. So for Sloane's staff, they are given Jones. For Vader's Vanguard, they are given Peely. And for Fiore's favorites, they are given Hope. These 3 mainly work as just guards. They're not going to be helping the teams. They're allowed to, but they don't want to. So, yeah, that's basically going to be the extent of their role. Outside of Jones, but that'll be more post-credit stuff. But when it comes to... Who do I want to start with? Which reality do I want to start with? They all matter quite a bit. I think we'll start with the easiest one, which is the MHA reality. So, for the MHA reality... They spawn into, or they ripped into UA High to find that who they were originally planning to try and sell to, since they're the only ones they really know about, Monica and Zuko, aren't there, along with the entirety of Class 1A. So, Toga, who knows a lot about a lot when it comes to Izuku and Monica, goes to Izuku's mother's house, leads everyone to Izuku's mother's house, and where Agatha is also at. And basically forces it out of her. And Izuku's mother knows who Toga is. Plus, with the pressure of everyone else around, they leave. But Agatha follows them, just to be sure. But that's not like going to be important enough to really bring her icon up. But she does. Now, where they excuse me, where they actually are is the camp. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, this is the camp where they're trained by yes, it's a weird name, the Wild Wild Pussycats in Season 3. So, they're able to make their way over there, and which I know that sounds unrealistic, but guys, they have Death who can teleport, they have access to the Force, they have access to Peely, who has a rift gun, so I'm sure he'll just not want to be around them, so maybe he'll help by just rifting them over there. But they get there, and they are looking around, and they're like, holy crap, everything is cooked, because now this is the part where they were coming in. This is the part where the League of Villains has already infiltrated the place and beat everyone up. And without Toga, they sought out trying to find a new addition to the League of Villains, where they would end up finding Lady Nagant to replace Toga. And once Lady Nagant was added onto their roster, things went a lot worse at camp. And I think that this would be where the villains, most of which don't actually give a flying fuck about the heroes, but they know that's who they need to sell it to, they would help out in the fight, along with Toga, who would fight for old League members. Daisy would be the one to encourage them to do this, as well as Peely. Once Agatha rifts over to see them doing this, she's like, okay, they're not the problem, the League is, and Agatha begins to help as well. We will pick up with them later, but I want to go ahead and move on to, which one should we do? I think we'll go ahead and move on to the FNAF reality. So, immediately when they rift in, I think Afton's like, hey guys, I'm gonna sit this one out, because if they see me, there's no way they're going to listen to anything. But I'm going to go in the back and try to figure out if I can like build something, and then y'all can sell it to them. So everyone's like, okay, that's fair enough. While these 4 are trying to figure out a way that they can kind of get these sentient animatronics, which, by the way, the people here are Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, better known as Gabriel, well, not better known, but better put has Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, and most importantly, Fritz, which is the Captain Foxy that competed in season 1. In fact, let me get him up here. Okay, so I decided to just bring everyone up. Y'all can't see them all yet, but I'll bring them up as I need to talk about them. But when I said Foxy, I did just mean Foxy. As you'll know, he was more of the Captain Foxy variant due to back whenever he was possessed, whenever he was brought to the Multiverse season 1, it was on Halloween in his reality, and he was dressed up in Captain Foxy attire. But now the pizzeria has been abandoned and everyone has fallen into ruin. All the animatronics have been completely, like, no maintenance at all, and they're starting to, let's just say, wither. So let's go ahead and look at our boy Foxy. He's not doing too well. But I think that also the other three, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and then we'll get to Golden Freddy later. Those three are in their withered forms as well, but again, they don't really matter to the story enough to get them their own icons. So, whenever they go up to those four, which, by the way, I don't really care about, like, staying on stage anymore or anything. They were just vibing in, like, the dining room. They're like, hey, so y'all know Multiverse. Fritz knows Multiverse. I'm gonna keep calling him Fritz from now on again. Fritz knows Multiverse, and Fritz is like, yeah. And they're like, okay, well, we need to sell y'all something for our Multiverse challenge, because we're in Multiverse Season 3 right now. And we wanted to know, what is something y'all be willing to buy from us? And Fritz is like, well, we don't really have a lot of money, but if y'all can figure out a way to get us out of these freaking hulks of bodies and set our souls free, finally, then we'll pay whatever you need. So they're like, okay, well, we're gonna just go try to figure that out. And they're like, whatever. Now, no one here would really have any idea what to do outside of Sloan. Like, Azula, Heather, and Bowser just would not matter to this. But Sloan knows not exactly how to do it, but that Afton will know how to do it. So she goes to the back room to find Afton, and she does, but Afton is completely out of commission, as Afton went to the back room where Golden Freddy sat. We will get to that in later, but for now, Sloan just shuts the door, sends the door shut, and tells Jones that he'll need to figure out a way to get Afton, because Afton is just completely dead, and it's not looking too good for him. So now, Sloan will have to figure out a way to do what she was originally going to ask Afton to do. Also, let me just go ahead and real quickly, before we move on to Fiore's favorites, I'm going to bring Monica and Izuku up. In fact, I'll go ahead and bring Agatha up right now as well. There's no reason not to. But when it comes to Fiore's favorites, I think I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the MFA right now, as right when they all rift in, the MFA is all helping the Murder Drones reality try to rebuild the world. Obviously, it's going to be a little hard. A lot of, since literally everything's ruined, but they have access to the multiverse, so they're bringing stuff in from other realities to try to help the worker drones and the remaining murder drones rebuild a society, kind of. All of the human characters are in spacesuits, by the way, since there's no oxygen. But I think the second they all rift in, because they're outside, everyone sees Sin and immediately freaks out. And even the people in the MFA are a little uneasy and ready to attack, not even including N and Uzi, who are fully ready to attack, because they know Sin might not be able to resist the urge now that she's on the Murder Drone's reality, in her own reality again. And while she is super pissed off, she does not want to, or she doesn't want to lose, because she thinks she's gone next. So she really wants to be nice to her team, have them win, and then, be quote-unquote nice, put on a nice act for her team, get a few wins, and then try to slip into the cracks. So she's like, hey, I'm just going to leave, and y'all can deal with that, with the challenge. So Sin opens up her wings and she can just pretty much form whatever, so I'm sure she can do that. She can fly, at least to some extent. So she just literally just flies off the planet, and all the other murder drones and worker drones just kind of look at each other like, that's not good that she's just around. But the others are still going to try to make their product either way. Now, what do I think happens next? I think that we'll pick back up on Vader's Vanguard, where Where I think they probably beat them in the battle. I mean, they have access to Death and Vader, which are some of the strongest people. So I think they probably beat them in the battle. And because of this, morale is super high with all the MHA people, but especially Monica, Azuku, and Agatha, who really do respect a lot of the people for turning, or at least they think, turning to help them for good. And they're like, maybe Lauren's Multiverse Season 3 idea wasn't so bad. And then they're immediately struck down with the fact that most of them just say they're doing this for the challenge. But Daisy was genuine, at least. And that leads to the only other person who was, at least in her words, genuine, kind of freaking him out a little, and that's Toga. So, Monica absolutely hates Toga's guts. However, Azuku sympathizes a little bit with Toga. So, he goes over and is like, hey, thanks for helping us today, or tonight. And then she's all weird about it. And then Monica just flips her off and takes Azuku away, who was just trying to be nice. And Toga, in her own weird, screwed up mind, was trying to be nice as well. Trust me, this is not a love triangle. At least in Toga's head it is, but not in the other two's. But I think that this is where they'd have to figure out what are they going to sell. And I think that while they're thinking, I think that this is where a few people, since they obviously want to help them now, are like, I know exactly what we can sell, and it's the Mimic programming. If you can give us a copy of the Mimic, we can give it to our tech division, mainly Mei Hatsume, which is a absolute genius inventor if you've never watched MHA, and she will love it. So, the teachers at the school, which are at the camp, obviously monitoring the kids, go ahead and buy the code to the Mimic programming, at least a copy of the code, which the Mimic makes. He mimics Afton and builds. Not that Afton. Well, I guess Afton did build the Mimic in this story. Obviously, not in the actual Five Nights at Freddy's games, but in this story, Afton built the Mimic. So he mimics Afton, builds another Mimic quickly, and then gives them it to give to Mei Hatsume, and they pay them quite a bit of money. It's that taxpayer dollars that go to the school, so quite a bit of money, and we'll see if that undisclosed or unsaid amount of money is enough. But because of that, since that was just in one night, that's less than 24 hours. So they leave the reality and come back. Peely leaves immediately because he did not want to be dealing with all that. He was supposed to be on vacation. And they go home. But let's see if the other two teams can catch up. So, picking back up with Sloane's staff, I think that's what the plan is Jones is going to rift in there, grab the plan that Afton was going to grab, which was in parts and service, by the way, pick it up and rift back, and then he would use that plan that or they would use that plan to build what was on there, because Afton had a pretty good idea of what they were going to want. So, whenever Jones does that and hands it over to Sloane in a very awkward conversation, Sloane puts freaking unwrinkles it and everything, and it is a scooper blueprint. Which a scooper is a remnant extractor. Now, remnant, we're not going to get too into it, but remnant is kind of when someone dies in the Five Nights at Freddy's reality, if they're really close to metal, like being stuffed inside of a metal animatronic, their soul will fuse with the metal, creating remnant before their soul is sent to the final reality. And that's what's happened to Afton, as well as all the other Five Nights at Freddy's animatronics, except for Grim, who is a different scenario, and the Mimic, I guess. Excuse me. So, what they're going to do is remnant extracting would just be taking that remnant out of the animatronic, but they're still fused to the metal. So what they're going to do is kind of modify it into a remnant furnace, as in some notes on the side of the paper, it says that if remnant is placed in fire, then it will melt, allowing the soul to be set free. So that's what they're going to try to do. So Sloane gets to work with Azula's and Bowser's help, since they've got a lot of access to fire, and Heather just trying to gather materials, and then Sloane being the main builder. While Jones just kind of works on rifting in and out of Golden Freddy's room to try and just grab as many parts of Afton as possible. But each time, Golden Freddy gets more and more angry. However, he can't really move, or I guess I should say they, more on that later too, they can't really move around that much, only in short bursts. So he can't attack Jones. But on Fiore's favorites, when it comes to what they try to sell, I think they'd probably give up on selling anything to the murder drones. So they'd probably try to sell something to the MFA. The problem is I think that the MFA would not want to sell to them outside of maybe Sasha. Because Sasha goes over and she explains, by the way, what happened to her with Zombie Wanda. She explains that to Marcy and Anne. They have a hug and everything. But Fiore's an asshole. Sonar and Rouge are still super flirty and stuff, so they probably don't really even interact with the others that much. And there's probably a joke where they're like making out, and then Uzi are like, "Are we like that?" And then I think Sin's gone. Hope's not helping because she doesn't want to, and Venom is Venom. So I think that it's really just up to Sasha here. So she's gonna try to clutch out, which is her goal, right? Now that she's a lot happier and a lot more locked in. But when it comes to how much I think they'd be willing to give her, I think it'd be just like they're not about to leave the reality and try to find more money, but everyone just kind of searches around for pocket change to buy. Well, what would they even buy? I don't think they'd really care. Maybe she like walks over and just rips off Fiore's hat and is like, "Here, take this," and Fiore's pissed off. And they look around and no one really seems to have change. Lena, no. Patrice, no. Not Ezekiel, not Tristan. Lumity, Marcy, and Toph. Green, yeah, none of Green Shadow and Kissy don't even have pockets. But it comes in luck as it seems always conveniently, Marco has $650. So he purchases the hat for $650. He's purchased a lot stupider for $650 in the actual show. And they're like, it's worth it. So they got to spend the rest of their time trying to find Sin because Sin just flew off. And they eventually do find Sin in the middle of space, freaking trying desperately to rip her cross necklace off so that she can go back and kill everyone. But this just gets her to be freaking like tased with the ripped gun. The same thing Hope had to do or tried to do to Ollie. She does that move to Sin, and it kind of just powers her off for a minute. So they go back to their reality with $650. But then we'll pick up back with Sloane's staff. Also, I can bring the MFA down now. Back with Sloane's staff, we're going to have... what are we going to have here? We're going to have... I mean, they finish it, and I think the problem would be how they're actually going to pay. So what they would probably do is... Because the animatronics can't leave the place without an access code. So, being put in so that they can leave the place, because that's how Fazbear's built it, so that animatronics aren't just wandering around the freaking town. So, like, their power will drain. But if you put a code in, then they'll be allowed to leave until they eventually run out of power anyway. But outside of a few random characters that will never matter to the storyline, Afton is the only one who would know that code. And he's a little busy. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, the cough, guys. But I think that eventually they would shift their focus. Like they would bring Afton over to Gabriel, Fritz, Susie, and Jeremy, who at first would be like, "No, we are not helping Afton." But then they're like, "Do you want to be set free?" And they'd eventually be like, "Fine, whatever." So they help Afton get like his head rebuilt enough to where he can like at least kind of function, because he always comes back anyways. Honestly, he probably wouldn't even need like a reboot card or anything. So he comes up and he laughs in their faces, taunts them, and they're like, just shut up. And he tells them the access code. So while those four leave to go try to find money, probably by just like robbing some people, they don't care, they're not going to be around long enough for repercussion. I think that they're able to finish it, especially now with Afton being alive. He's probably like just ahead right now, so he can't help, but he can still tell them. He can't physically help though. So by the time the animatronics are back with some money, I think that Afton's like, okay, we're done. And they're like, how do we know this is even worth it? Or how it's even gonna work? And Afton's like, well, you don't, but you gotta trust me. And they're like, the last time we trusted you, we got lured in the back room, killed, and stuffed in the bodies in the animatronics in the first place. And he's like, he just starts laughing. But Sloane goes up to them and says that she knows for a fact that they will work, and they have to trust her. So I think Jeremy volunteers to go in first. Jeremy's in the bodysuit, and he goes in and he activates it. And the remnant all melts along with the actual animatronic too, and Jeremy's soul is set free. And seeing this, Susie and Gabriel and even Fritz are like, "Holy crap, me next!" So they pay them the amount of money necessary, but and then they're sent back. So But we need to talk about how much money they actually got, as well as how much money Vader's Vanguard actually got. Because we only know Fiore's favorites got $650. Now, for Vader's Vanguard, they got a lot. And I mean a lot of money from the school. So I could see them easily getting into the like 5,000s. And because of that, they are obviously safe. So this means that Fiore's team really has to rely on Sloan coming back with less money. And when Sloan returns, it's revealed that when the four animatronics left the building to go rob, the first place they saw was a mansion atop a hill, which was the abandoned Afton family mansion where Springtrap William Afton lived. And because they went in his house originally because obviously they hate him and they're going to trash his house because why not? But while they did, they found all that money from Fazbear's, which, let's just say, he has a lot of money. So they brought it over and they paid it to them, even though they're paying Afton with his own money. They paid it to them, and that means that with another like $3,000, they probably just like broke into his safe or something. With another $3,000, Sloan's staff is also safe today, which means Fiore's favorites will be going to elimination once more. So let me go ahead and bring Hope and Jones down, and I think we're ready to go to our post-challenge section. Guys, that was a chunky one. I really want to give a shout-out once more to Raymond the Fire God. This was a great challenge suggestion, and it really allowed me to do a lot of cool things with the lore, bring a lot of cool Season 1 characters back, and the MFA, just really showing off their importance. So, I'm very thankful for this one. But, now, in the post-challenge section, I think on Sloan's staff, they spend the entire rest of the night just trying to repair Afton, but Sloan also secretly took, while Jones wasn't looking, secretly took the remnant extractor. She took those blueprints with her. She's still working on the Zero Bot in secret, so she now has access to even more chaos. On Vader's Vanguard, there's really not too much to talk about, as this one really wasn't the main focus of this episode. I'd say one thing is Toga is definitely considered like the MVP of the team right now when it comes to a lot of challenges recently, especially this last one. So that's a lot of people on the team are starting to respect her, particularly Death, as well as Daisy and Toga are also still friends. But and also Toga feels great because Izuku said thank you to her. As for Fiore's favorites, yeah, this is where things go a little more downhill. Sasha worries that she'll fall right into being a failure again, now that she's just lost it for the team, as they only got $650, and morale was just super low on with the MFA and the worker drones and murder drones. But I think Sonar and Rouge would probably reassure her that it's going to be okay and that it wasn't her fault at all. It was Sin's fault. So I think the three of them would go up to Fiore and Venom, and they'd be like, hey, can we go ahead and vote out Sin tonight? Because y'all don't really care about Sin. And then she's just really a really big asshole. And while Venom would probably argue and say, oh, she's the best help with challenges, which they'd be like, yeah, but she just hurt our chances in this challenge, and she's just super mean. I think that Fiore would be like, here, we'll think about it. But she's already made up her mind. Sin is the biggest help in challenges, but also is a vote that they desperately need. And they desperately need him because, imagine this, Sin gets out and they lose again. Sonar, Rouge, and Sasha are unbreakable, while Venom and Fiore definitely aren't. So, Fiore goes and leaks it to Sin that they're trying to vote her out. Sin is already super pissed off after waking up from being tased. So, she's fully on board with it. And when we come to elimination, Sasha, Rouge, and Sonar all vote Sin, believing Fiore, and Venom won't, or will. But Venom and Fiore, along with Sin, go ahead and vote Rouge. Now, whenever this happens, there's a tiebreaker, but I don't even think this tiebreaker is worth talking about, because even if it is having to sell something again, I think Sin would just threaten someone into doing it at this point. and because she can't actually kill anyone, but she can still threaten to, and the other people won't know any better. And Rouge, yeah, maybe she can try to be like sly and stuff, but I mean it's Sin, right? Sin is freaking insane. So I think that Rouge probably loses this. When it comes to why they chose Rouge of all people, they really didn't care, but they felt that Rouge, because in their eyes, all three of them were going to go, but they felt that Rouge was kind of the one that was most close to the other two. Obviously, her boyfriend is Sonar, and she probably really helped with Sasha, especially when Sonar was just kind of stupid. Um, so they go ahead and do that because things are a little awkward between Sasha and Sonar when Rouge isn't around because it's kind of a friend deal now. So Rouge is sent to Midas's prison. Holy crap, y'all! I just had a coughing fit for like 2 minutes. I'll definitely have to cut that out. Anyways, so yeah, she has good behavior, so she's going to be treated a little less harshly, but like she's not going to be fully let out like Alejandra was, where Alejandra was just waiting at the McLean Manor. But which I'm still gonna have them all in the Midas's prison category just so that I don't have to have even more tiers on here. But yeah, but our last thing that we really have to do is going to be Boney Island, and I think that Fiore would probably send. She doesn't really want to send Sin. Sin. Actually, she can't. But she, for the future, doesn't because she's not really a big help. She gets too mad too easily. But I think, I don't think she sends herself. I think she's humbled herself a little bit to the point where she knows that if they send, like, Vader, she's cooked. She also doesn't want to keep getting killed. Venom, probably not for similar reasons to send. Sonar is an idiot. So I think she goes ahead and sends Sasha, who is fine with that because she still wants to lock in and help her team as much as possible, even if her team doesn't like her. Also, when Rouge was eliminated, Sasha and Sonar were both really sad, but she says that they still have each other and that she's rooting for them and that it'll all be okay in the end. It's just a game. Except if, like, Sen wins, then they're all gonna die. No, I'm kidding. But, yeah, when it comes to the other teams, I think that Sloane's staff, they'll probably send Afton. Well, no, Afton went last time. So, I guess they'll send... screw it. We'll give Bowser something to do. He hasn't done much in a bit. And then for Vader's Vanguard, I think they'll send Mimic. Or he'll send Mimic. Just because Mimic is the most important, or the MVP, the most valuable player on their team outside of Toga. And Toga just went, and Toga gets distracted too easily on the Boney Island trips, and they're allowed to kill each other's hair. So yeah, the Mimic goes. But that's pretty much all I'm gonna have to say for this episode. I already have like 2 10-minute recordings down, plus there's this 30-minute recording, so I'm probably gonna have to do some editing tricks and stuff, but I also have all of the post-credit scenes to do, so this could end up being like over an hour long. So I hope y'all do tune into all of that, but if y'all are gonna leave, I do hope y'all enjoyed, and I do really hope to catch y'all in the next episode. See ya. This is our first and smallest of the 5 sections we're gonna do for our multiverse post-credit scenes today. So we catch up with Zombie Wanda. Through Zombie Blake, she sees Rouge be escorted to the dock where she's taken away by Midas. She thinks to herself, perfect. Now, all she needs is Sonar to be gone, and really just Sonar since the others hate Sasha. And then she can execute her plan to, let's just say, deal with Sasha. We then keep up with the bromance, where Chris and Chef are showing Trump along with the others, just the other, like, FBI agents and scientists and stuff, everything there is to know. I mean, like, they show him the ruins of the facility, they show him the hole where the Zero Shard used to be, however that shard has been claimed by Hope and Jones, and that's one thing Chris and Chef are refusing to tell him is anything about Hope Jones or Peely or any of that, because they have enough on their hands already. But yeah, that's something they're trying to figure out is where that shard went. And while they do this, Nuxanor secretly attacks one of the guards, like one of the SWAT guards who has like the, just in case like they try to do anything to the president. He secretly attacks him, and he doesn't kill him, but he incapacitates them, and he steals his outfit, and he goes over to them. So he's listening in to their conversation when all of a sudden Chris and Chef are jumped by a bunch of guards, not Nuxnor, but a bunch of other guards, and they are sent to the ruins of the facility to be more heavily interrogated. As while they've shown them around, I mean, they're not telling them what they really need to know, which is how to gain multiversal travel so they can get those resources. America, baby. A few days had passed, in this universe at least, since this episode's challenge. And the MFA had officially crossed 50 days into their trip across the multiverse. Again, remember, time works differently in different realities. So, some of those days were 3 days in the actual Total Drama multiverse. Some of those days were, like, while they were in the Murder Drones reality, they were in the Murder Drones reality for like 5 days to begin helping and all that. And that was just 1 day for Multiverse. So, when it comes to where to go next, they have spun a wheel on who gets to choose. And that person ends up being Ezekiel. And Ezekiel's like, alright, so I know a lot of y'all might not like him, but I want to go check in my original reality and see what's going on with Trump. And not everyone knows who Trump is, but after a quick explanation, I think it alienates a few people. Also, Trump does exist in some of these people's realities, but I think like the only one who would really know is probably like Tristan. Or when I say Trump exists, I mean like a version of Trump, because that's a whole other thing. Certain realities have versions of people, but not a lot of them. But yeah, that's not important. There's a version of Trump in the Dissenter Camp reality, though. And Tristan's like, are we serious? Because obviously, I don't think Tristan and Trump would get along very well. But Ezekiel's like, yeah, I need some testosterone. I need some red pill after all this. I can't laugh because I'm sick. Anyways, I think y'all know how these two storylines are about to connect. Before Afton was brought back to life, and while Azula and Heather were still gathering resources, Jones had continued, or had finished, getting all of Afton's pieces. So, he didn't really know what to do with himself, so him and Sloane just sat there. Sloane tried to make small talk with him, but he really just didn't respond. So she's like, well, you gotta be nice at least a little bit. I am the reason you're still alive. If it weren't for me giving you that arm, because remember he has the robot arm, then you would have bled out right there and died. And Lord knows what would have happened to Hope and Sky. And then Jones replies with, wouldn't it be the first time you got one of my family members killed? Sloane pretty much just shuts up after that. Susie made her way into the remnant furnace and melted away, setting herself free to the final reality. So Gabriel had already gone, Jeremy had already gone, and Susie had already gone. Now Fritz, it was his turn, but he wanted to go check in parts and service in that back room to see if Cassidy and Evan, aka the two people that were inside Golden Freddy, wanted to come and, be set free. So he walked in, or he walked over to the place, and when he was about to knock on the door, he heard them arguing over or through the door. So he listened in. Basically, Evan was super pissed at Cassidy. Here, let me go ahead and bring him up. Credit to White Arts for the art of both Cassidy and Evan here. But that Evan was pissed because he's a very scared, timid child, a very shy child, and he didn't want to see his father, William Afton, getting ripped to shreds, even if he knows that Afton's a terrible man. Cassidy, on the other hand, calls Evan selfish because while Evan's death was an accident, accidentally getting shoved in the head of the Fredbear suit and then bitten down on by the Fredbear suit in what Markiplier called the bite of 87, but was actually the bite of 83. Cassidy was forced into this Fredbear suit and had to go through the same thing William Afton had to go through, which was getting spring locked, which is not a fun experience. So, to say the very least. So she wants to make him pay as much as possible. Now Fritz walks in and tells them that their souls can be set free and that they can all go into the afterlife together. And Evan is 100% up for that. But Cassidy has other plans. Cassidy needs to make Afton pay. She doesn't just want him to pay, she needs him to pay. And she needs to make sure that it happens from her hands. So she doesn't care what Evan wants, even though they're both of their souls are trapped in the Golden Freddy suit. She forces Evan, or she forces control of the suit from Evan, and she teleports away with what she's kind of like. They're both ghosts inside of a kind of like super ghostly suit because the suit has two ghosts in it, so it's able to teleport as well. At least that's my explanation for why I can do that in the games. But they both teleport away, and Fritz is like, oh crap. So instead of going to the Remnant Furnace, he temporarily turns it off, and he goes to search for them. Which, now that the power lock is shut off, he's able to do that.